Ilia Topuria just knocked out Charles Oliveira in under 3 minutes to become the 10th ever two-division champion. He is well on his way to becoming one of the best of all time. Alexandre Pantoja is already in the conversation of one of the best of all time and just made that conversation even more complicated with a submission win over Kai Kara-France. My name is Angelo. This is We Want Picks, and I'm going to recap and react to every single fight from UFC 317. But before we talk about the fights, let's talk about the bets. Overall, a good night for your boys. I put up some solid money. I brought back 19% ROI. BetSam brought back 47% ROI. The safety parlay hit. The slam of the week hit. The combined ROI was 15%. And overall, the parlays were slapping. I had Ilia in 2 different parlays. Both of those obviously hit. We had a Terrance McKinney, Gregory Rodrigues parlay. That obviously slapped. I got the Beneil Dariush money line, underdog money. That hit. Payton Talbott from BetSam. BetSam also had a 3-leg plus 200 parlay, and then his slam of the week hit. So overall, great night for the boys and the community. I am filming this at 12:25 a.m. I got this DM a few minutes ago. The event ended about 20 minutes ago. This is from Stretch. Stretch sent me a DM saying the premium tools did it again. It allowed me to build this 14-leg parlay. $5 won 1,000. Here's a look at part of that ticket. So congratulations to him and everybody else who uses the tools, uses the picks, uses the bets on the website. You can unlock everything. As Stretch has pointed out here, it's not just copy-paste bets. There's also tools and insight and information so you can make your own decisions. Just go to WeWantPicks.com. It's $10 for an entire month. Here is what the next month looks like. $10 will unlock every single pick, bet, and tool for these events. UFC 318 is around the corner. UFC Nashville is next. We obviously have UFC Saudi Arabia, and then we have the Amir Albazi Tatsuro Taira fight card. Check all of that out now at WeWantPicks.com. It's only $10 for an entire month. Again, you get all of this for $10 freaking dollars. What are we doing? And what was Jhonata Diniz doing? No, that's not a good segue because this was a pretty good fight. We opened up the card with Jhonata Diniz taking on Alvin Hines. I picked Jhonata. I think everybody picked Jhonata. I don't think anybody picked Alvin Hines, where some people were led astray. Not me, because I didn't deep dive the prop bets. I just went straight up parlay with Jhonata in it. Was the Jhonata inside the distance? Was the under 1.5? And honestly, on paper, I thought those were all good because I thought Alvin Hines would just come running in all reckless and loose and sloppy and get tagged up. And that is basically what happened. Jhonata Diniz was very clearly the better striker. It wasn't even close. But turns out Alvin Hines is insanely tough, insanely durable. He's the Kelvin Gastelum of his division. You could just batter his face with a baseball bat, and he's just going to be there, gaining momentum as the fight goes on. He won that 3rd round just quite literally because Jhonata tired himself out just punching Alvin's legs out. Here's the deal. A lot of people are going to railroad Jhonata. I already saw people on Twitter, this guy sucks because he didn't get a finish. He sucks. He beat the absolute piss out of Alvin Hines. He beat the absolute piss out of him. Alvin had a takedown. Boom. Jhonata was right back up instantly. Alvin had a bunch of attempts. They were all stuffed. And Jhonata, look at this dude's face. So to say Jhonata sucks because he didn't finish this guy, let's find out, right? If Alvin Hines gets knocked out immediately in his next fight, then yeah, maybe Jhonata's a little overrated. But what's more likely is Jhonata just fought a dude that you're just not going to knock out that quickly, and he looked pretty good doing it. So I don't think this took anything away from Jhonata Diniz. He had a pretty durable guy who was just standing in front of him, winging big, heavy punches. The jury's still out on Alvin Hines because I know he gained a lot of respect from the community, as he should. But the reality is we didn't see any, very good skills. We saw toughness. We saw durability. But I didn't see, what a beautiful 1-2, or his takedowns are incredible. We just saw a guy that is very, very tough and is willing to throw big punches while eating them because he's so tough. So we'll find out. In my notes for this fight, it was Alvin Hines is tough enough to beat people at this level. So I don't know what his next matchup's going to be. He can definitely get wins in the UFC, but he's going to do so just by being tough and grinding through it. Then we had another interesting fight that burned a lot of people. Every single person picked this fight correctly. There was not a person on this planet outside of Niko Price's mother who picked Niko Price to win this fight. And that was understandable because Jacobe Smith was a high-level wrestler. Jacobe Smith has incredible power. Jacobe Smith showed all of those things. Jacobe Smith looked like a huge favorite here, except for the fact that he gassed. So he did get Niko Price out of there. He submitted him, but he did it after the 1.5 line. He did it later in the second round. So everybody who bet the under 1.5, me included, got burned on that. I parlayed the under 1.5 in this fight with the over 2.5 in the Tracy Cortez fight. I thought both those lines were as good as they were going to get. But obviously I was wrong here because this fight went a little longer than we thought. The only real disappointing part here was not the fact that it took a little while to finish Niko Price, because Niko's a guy that is either insanely durable or gets out of there quick, right? We've seen both. And honestly, halfway through that first round, it looked like Jacobe was going to get Niko out of there. What was disappointing is Jacobe Smith's cardio. Like, yes, he finished Niko Price. He did it late in the second, but between the last minute of the first round and when he found that finish, Jacobe Smith was tired, was very tired. And if he was fighting somebody who wasn't Niko Price, we'll see what happens. We can't forget Jacobe Smith was quite literally the biggest favorite in the history of the UFC. And he got very, very tired. And if we're just looking at this picture, look at this dude's arms. Look at his muscle. His ab muscles are, and listen, like, both hands above the table, okay, when I say this. His ab muscles are so rock solid and defined that there is an air gap. And you can't see my mouse. But if you just look at his waistline and you see the UFC logo a little bit up and to the left, there is an air gap between his rib cage and his abs because both of those are so freaking muscular, nothing can push in and squish and seal that tight. And where I'm going with this is not to get you all hot and horny before bed. Where I'm going with this is that is a lot of weight to cut. That is a lot of muscle to carry. That is a lot of oxygen your body needs. Jacobe Smith is realistically not going to be able to compete at a very high level against durable people with this much muscle mass. He either has to drop some muscle or change weight classes. He's not a big dude. I don't think he should change weight classes. I think he needs to drop some muscle. Obviously, he looked good in this fight, and I hope they continue to sort of slow roll him because at 11-0 with a bunch of finishes, he is a very big talent. We all knew what was going to happen to Niko. We just thought it would happen a little faster than it did. A lot of people thought it was going to be a knockout. It was a submission instead, but we saw flashes of power as well. So very interesting fight overall. The cardio, to me, was the real highlight here. And here is the finish in that fight. This is Jacobe submitting Niko Price. And that little circle there, that's my name on the UFC canvas. It's pretty cool. I bought this when I was going to Vegas, right? I was in Vegas. Watch the vlog. The vlog should be out Sunday midday. Watch the vlog. All right, if it's not out now, go back and watch the goddamn thing. I filmed it over 3 days. The wife and I went to Las Vegas. We met a whole bunch of people. We got to watch the weigh-ins, the press conference, and then we came home on Saturday. We intended on staying for the fights, but a month ago, 6 weeks ago, whenever it was, when I went to go buy the tickets, all the reasonable ones were sold out. I don't like floor seats because, A, they're wildly expensive and the view sucks. I don't want to go to the nosebleeds. I'll just watch it at home. I have a better setup at home. The best seats are halfway up the bowl. It's an angle. You can look into the cage. Those are perfect. Those were $5,000 each. And you know what? If I was like going with another dude and he was paying for his ticket and I was paying for mine, we're both fight fans, great. But I'm going with the wife. She's not a diehard fight fan. She enjoys it, but she doesn't know. So to spend 10 grand, because it's one household and that's our money, it just didn't make sense. And where I'm going with this is I bought my name on the canvas. It's about $600 to buy your name on the canvas. I think that price varies by event. But for this event, it was about $600. I was like, I'm going to be there with the wife. Every event I go to, if I do this, it could be really cool. I can fill up my office. And then we ended up going. But I was watching this finish. I was like, oh, shit, that's right. My name is on the canvas. And I saw it right there. So that is pretty cool. I'll eventually get that in the mail. They'll cut it out. They'll frame it for me. And when I get that, I'll show you guys again. Then we had the I'm going to spend more time talking about this fight than this fight lasted. This was a 30-second fight. This was a 55-second fight. I just checked the official time. This was a 55-second fight. Terrance McKinney came in here, shot a takedown immediately. As soon as it hit the ground, he wrapped up an anaconda choke, turned his hips, was cranking, didn't quite get the anaconda, went to full mount with a mounted guillotine, just squeezed. Little Viacheslav's legs were kicking, tap. And that was it. That was the fight. Terrance McKinney blew through this dude. It wasn't close for a half a second. And the problem with fights like this, the amazing part is he blew through him. He looked great blowing through him. But the problem with fights like this is the knock on Terrance McKinney has never been his finishing ability or his talent. The knock is he doesn't have a great chin or cardio. He didn't need either one of those for this win. I still want to see a Terrance McKinney fight that goes a little longer, that he wins. I want to be able to sit here and say Terrance McKinney has worked on XYZ. For him to blow through Viacheslav the way he did, I'm happy. I had a parlay with him and Gregory Rodrigues and that cash, so I'm good. For him to blow through Viacheslav the way he did, do we know anything more now than we did before? No, it's the same. It's the same Terrance McKinney. The guy is all gas, no brakes, went after it. If Viacheslav was able to survive, then we would have maybe found out, but he didn't survive. So congrats for Terrance McKinney. Viacheslav Borshchev at this point, I mean, I know he's a phenomenal striker and all that crap. He's 8-6-1. Like, we got to cut the dude. Let's be done. Then we had the easiest over 2.5 in the century. The problem is I parlayed that over 2.5 with the under 1.5 in the Jacobe Smith fight. So the bet didn't cash, but this was the easiest over 2.5 ever. The sportsbooks are getting a little smarter about the 2.5s. It wasn't easy money. It was minus 600, I believe, maybe minus 500. In reality, the over 2.5 in this fight should have been minus 1,000. I don't think I've ever seen those odds on an over before. And we probably should. So while these over 2.5s on some of these lady fights where neither female is dangerous, which is exactly what we had here. We had two women. Neither one of them are very dangerous. The over 2.5, let's say it was minus 600. While those are not great odds, it should be minus 1,000. It should be minus 2,000. If Jacobe Smith got bet all the way to minus 3,000, the over 2.5 should be bet somewhere similar. Not quite to that level because Jacobe Smith winning was, in my mind, more probable than this going over 2.5 because anything could happen. You can get your fucking knee caught in the mat. Like, anything could happen, right? You can have a random injury. But these odds weren't great, but they're still spectacular if you look at it. And this fight is what we thought it would be. A couple of early exchanges, but for the most part, Tracy Cortez was able to get some takedowns, control on top. That was the fight. We knew Viviane Araujo would slow down, and she did slow down, but it wasn't like a dramatic fall off. She just slowed down a little bit. Viviane Araujo had a couple of good early scrambles, but once Tracy Cortez won a scramble back and ended up on top again, it was Tracy's fight. So 30-27 across the board. It looked that way. It wasn't a very exciting fight, but it wasn't boring either. The hair is spectacular, by the way. Look at this. Braided hearts. That is spectacular hair. Like, unbelievable. Good for Tracy Cortez. Nice, clean, easy win. Left no doubt. I gained some respect for her because I was worried about the Viviane Araujo takedown defense. That shit didn't matter. She took her down instantly right off the rip. And then once they had some scrambles, she won a few. And that was all she needed. This is another fight that I'm going to spend longer talking about than it actually lasted. This fight was 26 seconds. 26 seconds, and I was wrong here. I had a good night overall. The bets were good. My picks were good. The reads were good. I only have one bet that I regret. I'll when we get there, I'll talk about it. I don't regret this bet. I bet on Hyder Amil. I don't regret it. Obviously, now knowing the outcome, if I can undo it, I would. But I don't regret it because my view on this was, hey, I understand how dangerous Jose Delgado is, but I believe in Hyder Amil's durability. That shit didn't fucking matter. Jose Delgado now 10-1, all 10 wins by stoppage. He just came running forward, landed this beautiful knee, and Hyder Amil fell backwards. And that was the fight. We learned nothing about any of these fighters that we didn't already know. We knew Jose was very, very dangerous. So we still know that. I guess Hyder Amil maybe isn't as durable as I thought he was, or Jose's just that dangerous. So this was a beautiful win from Jose Delgado. Spectacular win. Hyder Amil was a very public dog. A lot of people had money on him. A lot of people loved him as an underdog. We sort of felt that. I saw it in the comments. I saw it everywhere. I fell into that trap, placed a little teeny weeny bet, nothing big. Jose Delgado, I still don't know what he's going to look like if a fight goes a little long, but maybe we never see it because that dude looked spectacular. Gregory Rodrigues also looked pretty good. Spectacular is not a word I'm going to throw out there, though, because Gregory Rodrigues was kind of a bloody mess, and I don't know why. There was no reason for it, but he did end up with a first-round finish that was so devastating, the UFC had to give us medical updates on Jack Hermansson every 20 minutes. Every 20 minutes, Yep, we have a new update from the UFC medical staff. He's stable. He's stable. What the fuck? He wasn't stable at some point? You got him stable? Was this dude, like, going to die? What do you mean he's stable? Was he unstable? Like, was there a moment where you're like, oh my God? Then another hour later, yep, we have an update. He hasn't freaked out in an hour, so they're going to let him leave the building. Yeah, but to go to the hospital. He's leaving the building to go to the hospital. The UFC is like Disney. I don't know if you guys know this, but there has never been a death at Disney World. That's in Orlando. There's never been a death there. Now, people have died, but there's never been a death at Disney World for two reasons. One, if you're fucked up, they get you off property so fast, and they wait for the official call and time of death to be not on property. They get you out of there so fast. So fast, they get you out of there. They will take you to the hospital. They will take you off premises, so somebody else can be like, yeah, this dude's dead. And when they have to say, all they know is they're dead when they check. So they can't say, this dude's dead, but he died at Disney. So they have to say he's dead when they found him. UFC does the same shit. We get this guy the fuck out of here. Get him out of here. Let him out these doors. He's not dying on my hands. Ooh, he's not dying on my hands. So obviously I think Jack Hermansson is fine, at least according to the updates that they were constantly giving us. Now, if we talk about the fight, Gregory Rodrigues was far more controlled than usual. That was a narrative. He talked about it in the post-fight. I learned my lesson from the last fight. I come out too aggressive. I need to slow down. And you know what? I agree and I disagree. Like, that last fight was 5 rounds. This was 3. I actually think he overcompensated. I think he was a little too slow in this fight. Took a little too much time. Obviously, in the end, it didn't matter. He ended up sleeping the guy, and you can see him unconscious here. But the issue for me was, if Jack Hermansson was a little more durable, it was clear, at least with punches landed and forward pressure, that Gregory Rodrigues was winning, but he was a bloody mess. I don't know if he's like a Diaz brother with the insane safety cartilage, so everything's just blood, blood, blood instantly. But he was bleeding. And this era of MMA, where they only care about damage, that could have been a problem. It wasn't a problem. It didn't matter. We didn't end up on the scorecards. But that was starting to worry me a little bit. Ultimately, he got the knockout. He has the power. Great win for Gregory Rodrigues. 2 weeks in a row, there's been somebody that early in the week, and I got so many DMs about this. In my quick pick video, I'm like, I don't know. I'm a little nervous about Gregory. And then he was in the safety parlay, and I got a lot of DMs, a lot of comments in the premium Discord channel saying, hey, what you said in your quick pick video and the bet doesn't line up. What's the deal? And the deal was, I just got more and more confident as the week went on. You rewatch the Cannonier fight, and it's like he was dominating. He was dominating that fight, and he got finished in the 4th. If that was 3 rounds, game over. And if Jack Hermansson's fight against Joe Pyfer was 3 rounds, game over as well. So I just got more and more confident as the week went on. I had the exact same feelings last week. Who the hell was it last week that I had the same feeling about? I forget who it was last week, but same thing. As the week went on, I got more and more confident. And by the time that fight came, I was like, yep, I'm glad I went that direction. So I'm glad I doubled down. I had 2 different parlays with Gregory Rodrigues in it. He looked good, and half of that was fading Jack Hermansson. And when I was in Vegas on Thursday, my wife and I went to Italy. And I don't know why we went, because they have one here in Dallas. So it wasn't like some special treat. But we went to Italy, catch a quick bite. And Jack Hermansson was there with his team. And he looked miserable. And I get it. It was Thursday, not Friday, so he was still cutting weight. Why his team took him there is beyond me. Why the hell? This guy's cutting weight. You're going to take him to the Italian restaurant? But he was there, and he just looked miserable. Skinny and miserable. Then we had Payton Talbott. Payton Talbott, solid underdog here, got the win, looked pretty good doing it. He looked pretty good doing it. Now, this was a fight that had some interesting scorecards, some interesting back and forth. I thought it was a fair 29-28 across the board is what I would have scored it for Payton. He won this fight very clearly. But what was interesting about this fight is 2 things. One, the market overcorrected itself. And in MMA, you're going to get volatile markets that overcorrect because the general public in this sport is the most what have you done for me lately fan base of any sport. Of any sport. Let's say you're a Jets fan and the Jets get their ass kicked. The next week, and Jets are a bad example because the Jets fans pride themselves on how miserable they are. Let's give me a team. Actually, we'll use the Chiefs. If you're a Chiefs fan, they're a good team. They've proven to be a pretty good team, right? And you're a Chiefs fan and they go out there and they fucking stink up the joint in one game. You don't immediately go to the next game like Chiefs suck. The Chiefs are overrated hack. Everything they've done before this moment means nothing. Bunch of bum losers. You don't do that, but MMA fans do that. MMA fans will abandon a fighter so fucking fast. It is crazy. It's crazy how fast they'll abandon a fighter. And that's what happened with Payton Talbott. Great prospect, good win. Gets out wrestled by a 5-time Brazilian national champion. Loser, bum, probably gay with Frank Ocean. We hate this guy. So he went from a minus 1,200 favorite to a plus 45 underdog. And he came out here and we were all reminded why he has been such a big favorite and why he has had so much success in the past. First of all, he's tremendous. He is fucking big. Second of all, I don't know what's up with his skin, but it doesn't scratch, dent, bleed, swell, nothing. No change in color, nothing. And Felipe Lima cracked that dude a bunch of times. There was no swelling, no redness, nothing. It was actually crazy. Like, that is a major asset. I just talked about Gregory Rodrigues, who's bleeding from everywhere, from nothing. Meanwhile, Payton Talbott ate some massive, tremendous shots. Not a fucking, no redness under his eyes, nothing. 2, his striking is incredible because he's got great forward pressure. He's got powerful, clean shots. He times things well. The defense is there, and he doesn't care. Felipe Lima cracked him so hard, so many times his head doesn't even snap back. The closest you would get to any sort of reaction was him like, all right. And then he would just keep moving forward. And the scrambles looked pretty good. The wrestling was much improved. Now, Felipe Lima is not a 5-time Brazilian national champion wrestler. So it's hard to gauge if these are actually improvements or if Hany Barcelos' wrestling is just that much better. The issue in this fight for Felipe Lima, who I believe won the first round on all the judges' scorecards. I'll have to look at him again. But the issue in this fight for Felipe Lima seemed to be that he did not trust his hands. So he ended up having to wrestle. But he didn't have to wrestle. He chose to wrestle. He went out there and chose to wrestle. He went out there, landed clean, beautiful shots, and then would shoot desperate takedown attempts. He would get reversed. He would lose a scramble. He would end up on the bottom and then end up losing the round. And his coaches were pleading with him. Stop shooting. Trust your hands. Stop shooting. Trust your hand. They literally were like yelling at him to trust his hands. And I get it because in the striking exchanges, Felipe looked good. But then he would get hit once or twice. He would feel the power. He would hate it, shoot a desperate shot. It wouldn't go his way, and then he would lose the round. It was a weird fight. Payton looked very, very good. Good for him. And it's just so funny to see the wild swings in fan base because you know what's going to happen? Next time Payton fights, huge swing the other way. Massive favorite. Everybody's going to pick him. Nobody's going to play the other side. And it's just going to be that full pendulum swing because that's the MMA fan base. The overcorrection here was crazy. I am part of that problem. I'm not excluding myself from that. Payton Talbott, pretty damn good. Then we had an incredible fight. This was a very good fight because it was tense and it was sloppy. This was, you could call this a slug fight. There was a lot of grappling though. So let's call it it wasn't a slug fight. Let's say a slug, we'll take it for grappling term. A slug roll? Slug roll? I don't know. Anyway, this was a little sloppy and also stupid by Moicano. Moicano, dumb as shit. Like, what a dumb asshole. And let me walk you through why. The first round was relatively close, but Beneil Dariush was winning the first round. He had a couple of low calf kicks early, chopped up Moicano's leg, seemed to have success in the striking. Moicano would land every now and then, but if it was going to continue on that path, and we ended up in the scorecards, probably a 10-9 on at least 2 scorecards for Beneil Dariush. But with about a minute left, Renato Moicano lands a beautiful right hand, just absolutely drops Beneil Dariush, almost finishes him. Beneil sort of scrambled on the ground, grabbing a leg, and time ends up running out. If there was another minute left, he might have finished Beneil. So we had Renato Moicano almost finished Beneil Dariush on the feet with a right hand. What do you think he did? What do you think the first thing he did was in the next round? I'll wait. Shoot a fucking takedown. That was the first thing this brain-dead idiot did in the second round, is shoot a fucking takedown. You just dropped this guy. You almost had him finished with your hands. So the first thing you do is shoot a takedown against a former no-gi BJJ world champion, against the guy who out-scrambled Gamrot in every single wrestling exchange. You shoot a takedown? Are you stupid? Are you stupid? And the answer is yes, he's stupid. And that's why he lost the fight. Because he shot a takedown, was not going to get it, didn't get it. Beneil Dariush out-scrambled him, beat him to every single position, and won that round by being the better grappler. So what did that do? It told Beneil, I'm just going to out-grapple this fucking idiot. And so then Beneil just out-grappled that fucking idiot. That's how this fight went. Moicano gave it up because he's stupid. And I don't know why I have to watch an interview, and a lot of you have the luxury, or not luxury, but you watch this after watching some other stuff, right? I am filming this in the middle of the night. I have not absorbed any other content or media since seeing these things with my own eyes. So I don't know who has Fight of the Night bonuses. I haven't heard any post-fight conferences. Nothing. I know nothing because I'm filming this immediately following the event. So if you are watching this and you've heard why Moicano decided to just shoot takedowns after having success with the hands, I would love to know. Let me know in the comments. But I had the bet on Beneil. And there was two bets on this card that I said I regretted later in the week. One was on Beneil, and the other was on Joshua Van. We'll talk about that fight next. And I said I regret the Beneil bet because everybody seems to be on that same side. Everybody. And if I look at Moicano, it's like, all right, he has been pretty active. He's not a quitter. He's tough. And while every single one of those statements are true, he's a moron, and his intelligence is what lost him this fight. One of the things that really put me over the top to bet on Beneil here was one of our viewers, Anvi, a premium member, sent me a DM of a clip from Renato Moicano's podcast where Renato wasn't there. And they were just talking about why he's not there. And they're like, well, he just opened a new gym, and he's got this, and he's got that, and he's got this. And it's like, holy fuck, this guy is busy as shit. He is spread so thin. He made $1 million at least in his last fight. He said that. So this guy just got $1 million. He's more popular than he's ever been before. Distracted as shit. Opened the new gym. Has a social media following. Doing all these other things. He might be a little too distracted to win this fight. And he was. Because A, made a bonehead decision. I assume it was because he was tired. And B, at the end of the third round, he might have been able to steal that fight if he just poured the pressure on, and he didn't. So yeah, Beneil won this fight. The weirdest post-fight speech I've ever heard. He was like, I don't give a shit about fame. I just care about Jesus, which is fine. Like, be religious, care about Jesus. But it's like, people are happy to see you. So, appreciate the fans. How about that? Then we had an unbelievable, awesome back-and-forth fight. This was this close. This was this close for Royval. First round, probably Josh Van, right? He was in the pocket, touching up. Second round, Royval, to me, clear win. To one of these brain-dead judges, Renato Moicano's fighting coach, like the strategy coach, must also be a judge for this fight because some judge gave Joshua Van a 30-27 across the board. That ain't it. That ain't it. That makes no sense. This should not have been a 30-27 across the board. In no world was that the case. Anyway. Second round seemed like a Royval round. He outstruck Joshua Van. He was walking down Joshua Van. He was landing clean, doing all the things. Third round seemed more of the same. Statistically speaking, Brandon Royval did outstrike Joshua Van, and he was walking him down. He was landing more shots. But with 30 seconds left, they just Max Holloway it. They didn't quite point at the ground, but they just started blasting, and Joshua Van drops Brandon Royval. That round is over, so very clearly that round was going to go to Van. Very clearly. So in what was in all likelihood a 1-1 fight going into the third, other than on one moron judge's scorecard, got thrown away because Brandon Royval just wanted to go toe-to-toe. And that sucked because I bet on Brandon Royval. I bet on Brandon Royval 3 weeks ago when this was first announced because I was like, dude, there's no way. Josh is not at this level. And honestly, I don't fully regret those statements because I don't quite think Josh was on that same level. Brandon Royval very clearly could have won this fight. When he was using his length, he was chopping the shit out of Joshua Van's leg and it was bothering him. But then Brandon Royval was just so willing to fully engage. And if you're going to come at Joshua Van a little loose and stupid, he's got great pocket fighting. Joshua Van's inside the pocket boxing is unbelievable. He's got no head movement whatsoever. Joshua Van is wildly hittable. Wildly hittable. And if he fights somebody with equal power to him, it's going to be a problem because he does not move his head an inch and he gets hit a ton. But in the pocket, he throws that 1-2 so fast and so clean. He's the shorter guy and he had no problem getting to Royval. Royval's crazy bouncing and willingness to just wing punches did work against him at times. So I agree with the decision. This felt 1-1 going into the third. Brandon Royval got dropped in the third very clearly. Goes to Joshua Van. The one judge who said it was 30-27, absolute dumbass retard. This was a great fight. This was a spectacular fight. It just sucks for Brandon Royval that he decided to be fun. He decided to be aggressive. He decided to pour it on instead of, if he just came off the gas a little bit at the end, kicked the leg, stayed on the outside, he would have won this fight. But he went for it, and we love him for it. Like, he's an exciting guy. He set his own record for most significant strikes landed. Together, they set a record for combined most significant strikes, which I believe we did the over in Prize Picks. So this was an unbelievably fun fight. Joshua Van is now fighting Alexandre Pantoja. It's official. They will be fighting. We'll talk about that fight when we get close, but my gut is like, no way he beats Pantoja. But fighting a wrestler is actually great for Van because we just watched him get hit a shit ton. Literally got hit more than anybody else has ever been hit in this division. Okay, so before I hear about the best striker in the world, he just got hit like 250-something times with significant strikes. He got hit a shit ton. He has no striking defense. So fighting a wrestler where he has proven he could defend the takedowns and get the hands going, he might fucking beat Pantoja. We'll talk about that when we get closer. Pantoja just ran through Kai Kara-France. It wasn't even close. Sorry, Bet Sam. Sorry, Artem. Your biases were fucking nuts. That's like if there was just some kid from Prosper, Texas that like made to the UFC and I was just like, he's going to do it. I'm positive he's going to do it. Let me throw bets on him and convince him. That bias, the regional bias is crazy. Thinking Kai Kara-France was going to win this fight is nuts. At no point did that cross my mind. At no point. The only reason the safety parlay was Ilia and Gregory and not Ilia and Pantoja, which was also a bet that I had, was because I didn't want to disrespect the Kai Kara-France people. And I was like, Pantoja's getting a little old. Maybe something weird happens. That was the only reason. Outside of that, it's like, dude, what is Kai Kara-France, who is 1-2 in his last 3 fights? What the fuck's he going to do to Pantoja? What's he going to do? Defend takedowns? No. Catch him running in? Maybe. But that's only a concern for a couple of minutes. After that, the power's gone. None of it matters. And this was a very straightforward. Kai Kara-France had quite literally no success in this fight whatsoever. He didn't do anything well. He had no success. He couldn't defend the takedowns. Couldn't win any of the scrambles. Didn't land any like huge, meaningful shots. Also, did anybody else notice that the octagon seemed wildly slippery? Brandon Royval, I forgot to mention, he slipped a few times and his leg was getting kicked, but there was one time where he planted it and his foot just slid backwards. And in this fight, I think I saw, did we see one of these two also slip a little bit? The floor seemed slippery. I don't know why. But this was, listen, Pantoja just defended his belt for the 4th time. Demetrius Johnson defended his belt 11 times. I don't think it's a reasonable, like, those numbers aren't close enough to be like, oh, who is the best? But if you zoom out and you look at how he's winning, Pantoja's finishing people. Pantoja's also fighting the higher caliber person, where Pantoja has fought Brandon Moreno, former world champion. Pantoja has won against everybody in the top 10, where Demetrius Johnson was like, beat a bunch of nobodies who then had career fall-offs, won a bunch of random rematches, went up in weight, lost that. So I'm not by any means taking away from DJ because he's probably the greatest fighter of all time if you factor in the fact that John Jones is a piece of shit. But I don't know if Pantoja is completely out of that conversation yet. 4 title defenses. If he gets 5, do we say, hey, this generation fighter is better than that generation, so he's the best flyweight of all time? I don't know. But Pantoja looked great. Had quite literally no issues whatsoever getting this win. And neither did Ilia Topuria. And this was a fight I did the opposite. With RoboCop, I got more and more confident as the week went on. With this fight, I got less and less confident as the week went on. And the trigger for me was the picture of Ilia with Raul Rosas that went viral. And Raul Rosas is a 135-pounder. Ilia is now a 155-pounder. They were the fucking same size. And I was like, uh-oh. Because Charles Oliveira is huge for this weight class. So the original breakdown when this was first announced was, listen, Charles is chinny. He gets dropped in every single fight. Ilia's going to put his lights out. But then as we got closer and closer, I started to feel like, hey, this over 1.5 might be a solid bet because Ilia's not really getting people out of there instantly. And then we had this fight. Charles went right at Ilia. Charles wasn't afraid of a thing. He went right at Ilia, got right in his face, was striking heavy, looked to grapple. He shot a takedown. That wasn't going to go his way, and it didn't because Ilia is a Georgian. Obviously, he lives in Spain, and there's a whole bunch of different things going on there, but he's got Georgian roots. He's been wrestling since he was a small child. So Charles trying to just be the bigger, stronger wrestler, I get it, but that wasn't going to work. So Ilia ends up on top, slices Charles, beats him up a little bit. There's a leg lock scramble where Ilia's like, yeah, I want no part of this. They end up on the feet, and Ilia just beautiful, bang, bang, knocks Charles out cold. He knocked him out cold. He didn't get him rocked and then finish him on the ground. He knocked him out cold on the feet. And I can't remember the last time we've seen that happen to Charles. I'm going to pull his record up on my other screen. Obviously, his last loss was a wrestling loss to Arman Tsarukyan. Before that, Islam submitted him. We've seen him dropped. I believe Justin Gaethje dropped him. Dustin did. Michael Chandler did. But I don't know the last time we saw him get fucking knocked out cold on the feet. Paul Felder finished him, but that was ground and pound. I'm running through this list. Frankie Edgar decision. Did Cub Swanson knock him out on the feet? Did Donald Cerrone? And if they did, we're all the way back in 2011 for those fights. So for Ilia Topuria to go up and wait, take that power with him and knock Charles out cold on his feet, wildly impressive. Now, let me play devil's advocate. He is small. He is small. And he won that one wrestling exchange against the non-wrestler. I don't know if he beats Arman Tsarukyan. They teased the Patty fight. Patty got in the cage. I want to see the Patty fight. I will take the Patty fight over the Arman Tsarukyan fight because I think Arman might beat him. Arman's nonstop wrestling could be a problem. And it looked like, maybe I'm wrong and I'm crazy, I'm looking for problems here. It looked like Ilia was breathing heavy in that. It looked like he won this fight in 3 minutes and he looked like he was breathing pretty heavy. I'd rather him see fight Patty than Arman. I hope that's what they book next. I assume that is what they'll book next. That's a much bigger fight. 2 completely different nations. The UFC still doesn't like Arman, even though he made weight as the backup. So give me Patty and Arman, and then Justin Gaethje. Sorry. Give me Ilia and Patty, and then Justin Gaethje and Arman. Give me that. Let's do that. Then we'll find out where they all stand. Or Arman and the winner of Dustin's retiring. So only Max if Max wins. Ilia Topuria did what he said he was going to do. First round knockout. He defied the odds. I mean, he was a massive favorite, but you get what I'm saying. Good for him. 10th 2-division champion in UFC history. Guys, go to the website. And on the website, you'll find a bunch of different things. One of which is the ability to get $50. If you go to WeWantPicks.com/bets, we have a bunch of different sportsbook partners. If you use our link to sign up with any one of them, they're going to pay us a one-time commission. I will slice off $50 and give it to you. We make a couple of bucks. You make a couple of bucks. WeWantPicks.com/bets. Use the link, sign up, make a deposit. You'll get paid. Also, check out the website for the picks, the bets, and the tools. This week was a very good week, both for the tools and for the bets. If you use the fight simulator, this simulates fights 100,000 times and gives you the outputs. If you use the tape index, you will find all of the links to all the videos you need to do your own tape study, both for the next card and future cards. If you already want to do your UFC 318 tape study, you can do that right now. Just pull up the tape index under tools, select UFC 318. You'll see that full card. You'll see every fighter, their fight history. Click the little red play button. Video pops up. We have a DraftKings optimizer, builds DraftKings lineups for you. And we have far more than just me. We have me and the rest of the crew. Me, Artem, Betsam, Jacob, giving you our picks, our bets, our breakdowns, and our tools for every single fight card in an entire month. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member at the top. It is only $10 to unlock all of it. All of it. $10.